Don't bring your need, bring your seed. That's what my mentor once told me, and I never forgot it. You see, I used to think that if I told people about my problems, they'd care. I thought sympathy was a strategy, but let me tell you, it's not. Most people don't really care about your problems, and those who do, they can't solve them for you. That's your job. Now, I don't say this to sound harsh. I say it because I care. I say it because I've lived it. I say it because your life will never change if you keep handing your burdens to people who can't carry them. You've got to learn this early. Your problems are not your identity. They're just your starting point. They're not a place to live in, they're a place to grow from. There was a time when I was broke. Not just broke, embarrassed broke. I had pennies in my pocket, holes in my shoes, dreams in my heart, but no action in my hands. And every time I met someone, I'd try to explain why. I'd tell them about the government. I'd tell them about my boss. I'd tell them about my childhood, my setbacks, my fears. And do you know what that did? Nothing. They'd nod politely. They'd smile. But when I walked away just as broke as before. Because telling your story doesn't change your story. Not unless you change you. Now, I'm not saying don't talk. I'm not saying you should bottle it all up. But here's the truth. If you keep rehearsing your failures, you'll never perform your future. What you focus on grows. If you keep telling people how bad things are, you'll find more bad. If you keep explaining your wounds, you'll stay wounded. Instead of telling people about your problems, start solving them. Because that's what the successful do. They don't complain. They adjust. They don't wait for sympathy. They build strength. They don't explain their pain. They use it as fuel. I want to give you something to think about. The world doesn't owe you understanding. The world rewards results. And the only way you get results is by taking responsibility. Personal responsibility. That's the name of the game. Don't go around with your need. Go around with your seed. Plant, grow, improve, do the work, read the books, find a mentor, take the steps. Then you'll have a story worth telling. You might say, but Jim, it's hard. Yes, it is. But it's harder to stay stuck. It's harder to be broke. It's harder to wake up 10 years from now and realize nothing changed. So make the decision today to stop talking about the problem and start becoming the solution. Don't ask for less problems. Ask for more wisdom. That's how you grow. That's how you become strong. That's how you get to a place where people stop feeling sorry for you and start looking up to you. Because guess what? The same people you wanted sympathy from, they'll admire your strength more than they ever pitied your struggle. You don't need to be understood. You need to be focused. You don't need to be comforted. You need to be committed. You don't need applause. You need discipline. If you stop telling people your problems, you'll finally hear the whisper that matters most. You can do this. You're not your past. You're not your pain. You're not your excuses. You're a seed. So plant, water, grow, and stop giving your story away for free. Start rewriting it in silence. Don't just go around telling your sad story. Start writing a better one. Let's face it, life can be difficult. Things don't always go our way. You lose a job. You fall behind on bills. People let you down. You feel like you've been dealt the wrong hand. And naturally, what do we want to do? We want to talk about it. We want to share it. We want someone to care. But here's the harsh truth. Most people don't. Now don't misunderstand me. There are kind people out there. There are good listeners. There are friends who lend a shoulder. But most of the world, they're too busy trying to solve their own problems to carry yours too. You see, I used to think that if I could just explain my situation, maybe someone would fix it. Maybe if I told my story well enough, I'd get sympathy or help or a break. But after years of doing that, here's what I learned. Telling your story doesn't change your situation. Taking responsibility does. Nobody is coming to rescue you. The rescue is in your hands. And once you accept that, you can begin to rise. People have their own worries, their own bills, their own fears and stresses. So when you tell them about yours, they may nod. They may say, "That's tough." But deep down, they're thinking, "I've got my own stuff to deal with." Now, does that sound cold? Yes. Is it unfair? Maybe. But is it true? Absolutely. This world rewards action, not excuses. Results, not reasons. Progress, not pity. I once heard a saying, complainers attract sympathy, but never success. Isn't that something? You may get a few likes, a few pats on the back, a few moments of attention. But sympathy never built a business. Sympathy never paid the bills. Sympathy never transformed a life. Now, I'm not saying you shouldn't talk about your challenges. But if all you ever do is talk and never take action, what changes? You don't need to repeat your problem. You need to replace it with a plan. You don't need a bigger audience for your pain. You need a bigger vision for your life. Because here's another truth. People may listen to your problems, but they're inspired by your progress. They admire the person who rises. They follow the person who overcomes. They believe in the person who turns pain into power. So here's what I learned. Stop telling everyone about your mountain. Start climbing it. Let me tell you about a man I knew. Every day, he'd tell anyone who'd listen how unfair life had been to him. He'd talk about his divorce, his debts, his missed opportunities. He was a walking story of pain. But that story never changed. Why? Because he never acted. He believed that explaining it over and over would fix it. And 10 years went by, same man, same story, same problems. Don't let that be you. Life may not be your fault, but it is your responsibility. Now let me give you a better way. Instead of saying, "Here's what happened to me," try saying, "Here's what I'm going to do about it." Instead of repeating the pain, repeat your plan. Instead of hoping someone will feel sorry for you, decide to become someone others admire. The walls we build to protect our pain also keep out our progress. You've got to let it go. Let go of needing validation for your struggle. Let go of the desire for others to carry your emotional load. Let go of the identity that says, "I am my pain." You're not. You are your choices. And your next choice could change everything. So here's the assignment. The next time you feel like venting, stop. And ask yourself, what can I do right now to move forward? Maybe it's a book to read. Maybe it's a phone call to make. Maybe it's a goal to write down. But whatever it is, do that. Because action speaks louder than complaints. And when you start moving, that's when people start noticing. Not because you shouted your struggle, but because you showed your strength. Everyone's got problems. What separates the successful is that they don't lead with them. They lead with vision. They lead with action. They lead with responsibility. Don't be remembered for your pain. Be remembered for your power. The world may not care about your problems, but it will care about your progress. And that, my friend, is where your story really begins. You cannot change the circumstances, the seasons, or the wind, but you can change yourself. That's where the power is. That's where the miracle begins. Now listen carefully, because this might sting a little. Your life doesn't get better by accident. It gets better by ownership. You see, when I was young and broke in the wallet and broke in the mind, I had a long list of things I blamed. The economy, my boss, my parents, the government, the weather, my lack of education. And if I could have, I would have blamed gravity. But then I met a man, a mentor, a thinker, a man who didn't accept excuses. He looked me right in the eye and said, "Jim, your life will only start to change the day you take full responsibility for it." At first, I didn't like that. It sounded cold. It sounded unfair. But you know what I realized? He was right. Because as long as you blame, you stay stuck. As long as you point fingers, you surrender your power. Let me tell you something important. Responsibility is not a burden. It's a gift. It's the moment you say, "This is mine now. I'll handle it." Because the person who owns the problem owns the solution. Now, you may say, "But Jim, it wasn't my fault. They hurt me. They lied, left. They failed me. And I'll say, you're right. But now what? What will you do about it? You can't control who hurt you, but you can control who you become. You can't go back and rewrite the chapter, but you can start a new one today. You see, we live in a world that loves to pass the blame. Blame the system, blame the school, blame the upbringing. But the moment you say, it's me, I'm responsible, that's the day your life shifts. That's not weakness, that's strength. If it's going to be, it's up to me. I say that again to yourself. If it's going to be, it's up to me. And now responsibility doesn't mean guilt. It means ownership. It means you stop outsourcing your life to other people's decisions. You stop waiting. You stop whining. And you start working. When I accepted responsibility, everything changed. I started reading books, listening to tapes, taking notes, showing up early, staying late, thinking differently, working harder on myself than I did on my job. That was the turning point. Let me ask you this. Are you working harder on your circumstances or on you? Because when you grow, everything around you grows. When you elevate, you bring your world with you. But if you stay bitter, stay angry, stay in blame, you stay small. Don't wish it were easier. Wish you were better. One of my favorite lessons. Because the truth is, you are not a victim. You are a creator. You can rewrite the ending. You can shift the direction. But only if you say, it's on me. People say, Jim, how do I become successful? And I say, start by being responsible. Be responsible for how you spend your time. Be responsible for how you treat people. Be responsible for what you read, what you watch, what you think. Be responsible for your energy, your goals, your discipline. Because when you own it, nobody can take it from you. The man who blames is a prisoner. The man who takes responsibility, he's free. Free to grow, free to change, free to win. And here's another truth. Success is nothing more than a few simple disciplines practiced every day. You don't have to overhaul your whole life tonight. You just need to start. Own today. Own your attitude. Own your decisions. That's how success is built, one act of ownership at a time. Now, let me challenge you. When things go wrong this week, don't react, reflect. Don't look outward. Look inward. Ask yourself, what part of this do I own? What can I learn? How can I respond differently next time? Because responsibility isn't about perfection. It's about progress. Stop saying, why me? Start saying, try me. Don't say, I can't help it. Say, I can help it, and I will. Because once you own your problems, you unlock your potential. And that, my friend, is the path to freedom. It's not easy, but it's worth it. Take responsibility and take your life back. Work harder on yourself than you do on your job, and do it quietly. That's one of the greatest lessons I ever learned. You know, sometimes the most powerful move you can make in life is the one no one sees. In this noisy world, where everyone's broadcasting their problems, their stress, their pain, you've got to learn the value of silence. Because here's the truth, silence isn't weakness. Silence is strength under control. Now, when things fall apart, your first instinct may be to tell the world. You want to vent. You want sympathy. You want people to know just how hard life is. And hey, I get it. I really do. I used to do the same. But I found out something. The more you talk about your struggles, the more power you give them. And the more you repeat your story, the more it becomes your identity. Suddenly, you're not just facing pain, you're living in it. You wear it like a badge. And that badge keeps you small. Let me tell you about a man I once knew. He had great potential, big dreams, good intentions. But every room he walked into, he brought his problems with him. He'd lead with the drama. He'd talk about who wronged him, what didn't work out, how life was unfair. And what happened? People stopped listening. They stopped taking him seriously because his voice was full of complaint, but empty of progress. You see, there's no strength in constantly explaining your suffering. Strength is in endurance. Strength is in quiet resolve. You want to know who people admire, not the one always shouting for help, but the one who silently rebuilds. the one who walks in peace, the one who doesn't need to prove or explain, because their results speak for them. The few who do are the envy of the many who watch. That's what I always say. Let people wonder what you're working on. Let them guess what's driving you. Let your actions be the volume and your voice stay humble. Now, I'm not saying bury your feelings. I'm not saying deny your pain. But I am saying, don't let your pain be your promotion. Because that kind of attention is temporary. People might listen for a moment, but they don't follow a victim. They follow a victor. If your struggles are all you share, then people will associate you with struggle. But if you share solutions, if you live out growth, now that's something people respect. Let me give you something to think about. While you're talking about it, someone else is doing something about it. While you're explaining your burden, someone else is lifting theirs. While you're posting your problems, someone else is building their breakthrough. So here's the better question. Do you want sympathy or do you want success? You usually can't have both. Sympathy keeps you warm, but success lights a fire that changes everything. You know, one of the greatest seasons of my life came after one of the hardest. I lost opportunities. I lost people. I lost direction. But I made a decision I wouldn't announce my pain. I would answer it with work, with growth, with focus. I disappeared for a season. And when I came back, I didn't have excuses. I had results. People said, "Jim, where have you been?" I said, "Building, not complaining, not performing, just building." And I never looked back. That's the power of silence. Silence helps you think. Silence helps you grow. Silence helps you hear the voice that really matters, your own. Because when you turn down the noise, you finally hear the truth. You hear, "I am responsible. I can change. I don't need validation. I need action. I don't need sympathy. I need strategy." That's the strength most people never tap into. So let me give you an assignment. This week, go quiet. Not in bitterness, but in power. Quiet your complaints. Quiet your need to explain. Quiet your need to be understood by everyone. And start listening. Listen to your thoughts. Listen to your goals. Listen to that part of you that knows you were meant for more. Then get to work. Because when the noise dies down, the work begins. Success is what you attract by the person you become. So not loudly, not desperately, but daily, silently, consistently. And when the time is right, you won't have to tell people what you've been through. They'll see it in your posture, in your peace, in your progress. You don't need to broadcast your struggle. You need to live your strength. Because in the end, the strongest people are not the ones who speak the most. They're the ones who act the most. And that is real power. Don't bring your need. Bring your seed. That's one of the most powerful lessons I ever learned. See, everybody's got a need. Some need more money. Some need more time. Some need better circumstances, better people, better luck. But needs don't move the world. Seeds do. If you keep focusing on your problems, you stay where you are. But the day you shift your focus to planting seeds, that's the day your life begins to grow. Let's talk about farmers. A farmer can look at a field and say, "I need crops. I need rain. I need food." But saying "I need" doesn't make anything grow. The only thing that changes the field is planting something. If you want the harvest, you've got to plant the seed. You've got to water it. You've got to care for it, even when nothing seems to be happening. It's the same in life. The soil doesn't respond to your need. It responds to your action. I used to spend a lot of time complaining. I'd say, "The company isn't paying me enough. I don't have enough opportunity. The timing isn't right." But then I realized life is a garden, and I was showing up with empty hands. So I changed. I started bringing seeds of discipline, seeds of books, seeds of better habits, seeds of better thoughts, seeds of new decisions. And little by little, the ground started to shift. Now, let me ask you, what seeds are you planting? Are you planting blame, doubt, procrastination? Because here's the truth. Every day you plant something with your words, your actions, your attitude. And so don't just pull up a chair and complain about the weeds. Start planting something better. You say, Jim, what does planting look like? It looks like reading 10 pages of a good book today. It looks like waking up a little earlier. It looks like turning off the TV and turning on your future. It looks like taking personal responsibility, not for everything all at once, but just for one thing today. That's a seed. Most people want the fruit without the root. They want success without the sweat, growth without the grind, change without the challenge. But it doesn't work that way. First you plant, then you wait, then you harvest. Not the other way around. And in between the planting and the harvesting, there's a whole season of silence. That's where most people quit. They say, it's not working. But just because you can't see the seed doesn't mean it's not growing. You've got to trust the process and work while you wait. And here's something important. When you focus on growth, your problems start to shrink. Why? Because you get stronger. And when you grow, your capacity grows. You can handle more. You can think clearer. You can solve faster. Problems don't always disappear, but you become the kind of person who can rise above them. That's what seeds do. They turn weakness into strength. They turn fear into confidence. They turn waiting into preparation. I remember when I started planning in my own life, it was slow. Some days felt pointless. I didn't see much change at first, but I stayed consistent. I showed up with my seed every day, and now, years later, the harvest is so much greater than the effort it took to begin. So don't be discouraged by small steps. Don't despise slow progress. Small disciplines repeated with consistency lead to great achievements. That's how you win. Not in giant leaps, but in faithful planting. Let me give you a challenge today. Plant something. Not tomorrow, not next week. Today. Maybe it's making that phone call. Maybe it's opening that book. Maybe it's committing to 30 minutes of focus. Whatever it is, do it. Then do it again tomorrow. And the day after that. You don't need to plant a whole field in one day. Just one row. Just one seed. Because when you look back 6 months from now, a year from now, 5 years from now, you'll be amazed at what grew because you stayed committed to planting. Stop repeating your problems. Start repeating your discipline. Don't carry your need everywhere. Carry your seeds. Plant them with intention. Water them with effort. And protect them with patience. Because that's how gardens grow. That's how businesses grow. That's how people grow. And that, my friend, is how you grow. You can't change the beginning, but you can start now and change the ending. Let me ask you a serious question. How long are you going to keep telling the same story? You know the one. The story of why it didn't work out. The story of who left you. The story of what hurt you. The story of the struggle. Now listen closely. That story might be true, but is it helping you? Because here's what I know. You can't rise while holding on to a narrative that keeps you low. If you want to go from victim to victor, you've got to rewrite the script. And that's something only you can do. I used to tell my story everywhere I went. I talked about how broke I was, how I never got the right breaks, how life seemed unfair, and people would nod politely. But nods don't change your life. Sympathy doesn't pay the bills. Empathy won't build your future. You know what does? A new mindset, a new set of disciplines, a new story. You see, life may have written your first few chapters, but the rest of the book, that's up to you. Don't let your past steal your present. And don't let your pain become your personality. You've got to decide, right now, to pick up the pen. Not to erase your story, but to redirect it. You're not the only one who's been hurt. You're not the only one who's been rejected, overlooked, underestimated. But the difference between those who rise and those who remain is this: victors act. Victims hope someone will rewrite the story for them. Victors grab the pen and say, "This part is mine." Now maybe you say, "Jim, you don't understand what I've been through." And you're right. I may not. But I also don't need to understand the depth of your pain to remind you of the height of your potential. What happens to you is not nearly as important as what happens in you. The moment you decide to stop rehearsing the pain and start practicing discipline, everything changes. Because here's what most people don't realize: you don't need a miracle. You don't need a reset button. You don't need permission. You need a decision. Start with this. Change the way you speak. Stop saying, "I'm not good at this," and start saying, "I'm learning." Stop saying, "I never get a break," and start saying, "I create my opportunities." Stop saying, "This always happens to me," and start asking, "What can I learn from this?" Because you are not your mistakes. You are not your delays. You are not your fears. You are capable. You are resilient, and you are still writing. You say, "But Jim, I've wasted so much time." No, my friend, you've learned. You've gained experience. And now you move forward wiser, more aware, more focused. But only if you stop living like the first chapter is the last one. You can't rewrite your life if you keep rereading the same painful page. The past is a place of reference, not a place of residence. Don't camp out in your excuses. Don't decorate your disappointments. Don't build a life around blame. Build it around purpose. Build it around vision. Build it around the best version of you. Let me give you something powerful to remember. The most inspiring stories. They're not the ones that are perfect from the beginning. They're the ones where someone rose. From the ashes. From the heartbreak. From the defeat. They made a decision. They took ownership. They planted seeds. They got quiet. They stayed consistent. And one day people stopped asking about their problems because their progress became too loud to ignore. So what's the next chapter of your story? Will it be more of the same? More struggle, more blame, more silence filled with regret? Or will it be a chapter of change, of action, of courage, of breakthrough? You don't need to fix your whole life today, but you do need to start writing something new today. You've been through enough. You've talked about it enough. You've cried over it enough. Now it's time to build something from it. You're not broken. You're being rebuilt. You're not behind. You're just being prepared. So pick up the pen, stand a little taller, and write the kind of story you'll be proud of. A story where you didn't let life define you. You defined yourself. A story where you went from victim to victor. And best of all, a story where the world didn't see your pain. They saw your power.